this is Maren, and you're listening to Homeschool Unrefined, the podcast where we keep homeschool simple, real, and fun.
And this is Angela. You've got episode 113, Interest-Led Learning IRL. We are going to get to that in just a few minutes, but first we wanted to say hello to all of our listeners. Thank you for being here. We're so glad to be back with you again. We love doing this, so we're glad to be here. Special hello to our Patreon supporters. And we have a few shout outs today to some new supporters, Lauren, Melissa, Jenny, and then we have a couple people who went up to level from $3 to $8, and that's Lisa and Amanda. So thank you to everybody.
Woohoo! Thank you so much.
Yes.
You're making this happen.
Yep, thank you.
We appreciate you so much.
Sure. Thank you for your support. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, you can go to patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined.
So this summer, we have a goal of getting to 10,000 followers on Instagram. And we are getting there. We're getting there, but we need your help. We are asking everyone who loves our podcast. If you love our podcast, if you just started listening, or if you've been listening for a long time and you like what you hear, share it with someone you know in real life, IRL, or share on Instagram. Share one of our posts. Just help us spread the word so we can get up to 10K.
Yeah, we would love that. And if you're not on Instagram, we are great with you sharing other places too.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's really helpful. Like if you have a group of homeschool, a Facebook group of homeschoolers, you could share us there or anywhere.
You're in real life homeschool
playground
that you meet with. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would love that because actually word of mouth is the best way that podcasts spread. The information about podcast spreads. So if you could help us with that, we would love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much ahead of time for that. We so appreciate the way you share. And a lot of you have done that so much already.
A lot of you do it all the time, and we love you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It makes the world of difference. So thank you so much. All right. So, Angela, it's summer.
I think so. Officially. Well, actually, not officially. Yeah, officially it is, I think.
Once this gets aired, it will be yes, right? I know. So it feels like summer anyway. And we are in summer mode. Just suddenly, I feel like it happens kind of boom.
Yep, it happens.
Even though I think there is a gradual, lean towards summer, but then it feels like this one warm day. It just
all of a sudden it was like 85 or 90, and I was like, oh yeah, we're in it.
Okay, we're summering now. And last week our last episode, we talked about how we summer.
Yeah.
Talked about some of our tent poles that we're going to just stick with this summer, and then kind of do other things too. Are you still on that kick with the 10 poles? Are you doing the same things that you maybe mentioned? Do you remember?
Well, okay,
because I feel like this does change. It can change so easily.
It changes. Well, my kids are still doing the play, which that is a huge tent pole for us. They have practices certain times, so that is like something that is set in stone. Kind of everything else is going around that. Also, my 10-year-old, he needs a lot of physical activity. More than the rest of us, and so I kind of signed him up for a lot of things. And that hasn't really started yet, so ask me in 2 weeks, because I'm not sure how that's all going to play out, like me driving him to all these places. Like I think he needs to be in the things. I'm worried about.
And then you start driving and you're like, why?
I signed him up for something every day, which
maybe you should just run around the house 10 times.
I wish it were that easy. I wish it were that easy.
I know. Me too.
Oh gosh. So I signed him up for something every day, which is just not my style at all.
I know.
It goes against everything that I want to do. So we'll see how that's going to go. But I am actually kind of excited for all that to start because he's really needing that. So it'll be great at first, and then we'll see what happens. And then,
well, in those situations, I feel like I know it's hard at the time, but then like just the whole culture of your family is probably going to be better because of, the one kid that's getting what he needs.
True.
Hopefully you can, when I am complaining about whatever it
Yeah.
is, driving people around, sending people up for stuff, I just think like, I think this is better for our whole family. So it's like an investment in like making the whole family like a better,
Yeah.
community,
Yeah,
basically.
I really hope so. I really hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah, so those are kind of those are what I would say is our big summer temples. And I know you
Okay.
have like
Yeah.
a real different kind of summer.
Yeah, we do.
So, how about you?
We
What's a
do.
little update?
Well, so yeah, our update is basically, so we are leaving the state July 25th. So we're going to be like completely moved out of our house and going to New York City for a month.
Yay!
So, which is super exciting. It's just, we are really working on just establishing a regular kind of homeschool pattern again. Because we hadn't been doing that for so long while we were doing fix-ups on our house and selling our house. So that really, I cannot even believe it really uprooted us.
Yeah.
And, it's just so interesting because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, we can handle this for 3 weeks. It'll be fine. And, and we can do some of the things that we normally do. No, we couldn't. It was just,
you didn't do any
didn't work out
quote
like
unquote schooly academic kind of stuff while you were doing that. Yeah.
We really couldn't. It was just our kids weren't even emotionally there.
Yeah.
To do that. They couldn't do it. Or me. I wasn't there either. So so I really took their cues and laid off.
Yep.
So, which I think was a good thing to do. It's just like we need those tent poles back.
Yeah.
And so we're going to stick with like kind of a regular homeschool schedule for the next 2 months. Really. Well,
so you're going to
it's less than that.
You're going to do school in the summer, basically.
We are. Yeah, which we've never really done before. Not this much anyway. And like I've said many times, like we don't have intense academic schooling at our house right now. I'm not into that, and our kids are really not into that right now. So it's just keeping a steady routine and remembering things. I want them to remember how to do math.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember what it feels like to write ideas down on a piece of paper and, those kind of things, like reading every day, those kind of things. I mean, it's not going to be intense because we're really not there either. We can't do that right now. We're getting rid of stuff. We're preparing to move. And so I have to keep that in mind, but I do want to keep a lot of steadiness.
That makes a lot of sense.
Leave.
Yeah. Because also you're going to be, in New York for a month. And I can bet that when you're there, you're not going to do a lot of school stuff.
Yeah. And, that's the one place. So we're traveling for a year. If you haven't been up to date with us. So we're starting in New York City. It's the one place that we're flying to. So we really can't bring much of anything.
Yeah.
School wise.
And you're only there once. So I just think, why?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to do stuff.
Right. We'll buy 50-cent notebook when we get there.
Will you?
If we want to. Yeah, just to write some things down, draw some pictures, whatever. It's going to be.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's good processing. I think that's really good processing. So we'll do that, but we don't have to. It can't be like our any big books.
Yeah, right.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So exciting. Yeah. I'm really happy for you. And we're going to be podcasting all summer, so we'll be able to hear updates.
Exactly. Yes.
And how this is going.
I'm excited to share with you.
Yeah. All right. This summer, we are coming to you with all new episodes, which we are very excited about. And we're also going to be sharing some of our favorite conversations with you within those episodes. So we have one today that is all about interest-led learning that we think you'll enjoy. And then you can stick around for all new LTWs at the end.
Always. Love those LTWs. So yeah, we'll be talking lots this summer, and we'll be including some of our favorite topics that we've had in the past, and they're so rich and good that we wanted to share them again.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy this conversation about interest-led learning. All right. So we are going to finally get to our main topic, which is, this is a topic you and I talk about so often, and we decided to make it official into an episode.
Yeah, and we talk about it like on Voxer a lot, just
On Voxer.
informally
Yes.
as we are homeschooling.
Yes. And it's kind of a backdrop to our homeschooling experience. So it sometimes maybe hasn't always felt like the main topic of conversation, but we really decided, you know what? This is something that's so important to us. We need to talk about this.
Right. So, interest-led learning.
Yes. So
What we're diving into.
Yeah, yeah. And we're having this conversation because not because we know what we're doing necessarily in this topic. And if you are a new listener, you will come to realize this is how we talk about everything. We are not the one place that has, we're not the basis of all information on these topics, but we are definitely, we are great at processing things.
Yeah, we're just sharing our experiences.
Yes.
And also talking about it because it's something that I would like to get better at or that I would like to learn more about.
Yeah.
And so since we talk about this and we process a lot just outside of the podcast, we thought, well, let's just do it on the podcast. So we might get some like terminology incorrect or like we
definitions.
Some experts might disagree with us, but this is just like our perspective and where we're coming from.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And we also don't necessarily think, I think these are just like kind of disclaimers. So we do not want to offend anyone in these conversations. This is not something we feel like anybody should always do all the time. It's something to consider. It's a topic that may be good for your family, may not. I don't know, but like it's something good to hear about and maybe dive into a little bit.
For sure. For sure. Yes. Okay, so what even is interest-led learning? Let's start there.
What even is it?
What is it? Okay.
So, I think when I think of interest-led learning, my first thought is, and this is not an official definition because it just came in my brain, being in tune with your children enough to know how they work best, how they learn best, and then kind of letting them make choices about how they're going to learn, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's a very simple, baseline definition.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Sounds really official too.
How about
great.
you? Can you think?
I think that sounds great. I think that sounds great. Yeah, I feel like it's about letting your kids, when they have an interest, letting them go with that.
Yes.
And not trying to control that.
Yeah.
Or manipulate it into something that looks acceptable to you.
So that it feels good, like good, they're learning.
Yeah, right.
To you.
And to me, right. Yeah, it's just kind of letting it fly. And so some examples, we have some examples of that are like, okay, so there are some examples that look more traditional, like learning an instrument or
sport,
excelling at a sport,
right?
Or being really interested in coding,
right,
something like that,
or like a history. Sometimes I think it feels good to us as adults when our kids are really interested in World War II or something,
right?
That we kind of wanted them to learn about anyway. So it's like, oh great, they're learning, they want to learn about World War II. Let's go down this path now, that's great.
That's great. And it looks good to the grandparents.
It looks great to the grandparents. They're very happy about that.
Yep. But like, what if your child is really interested in like, cardboard creations?
Yes.
or like cutting paper or something that's more messy or annoying.
Yeah. Or Minecraft.
Oh yeah.
Ouch. Did I just touch a button already? Yeah. We just started this. There are some things where we're like, well, that's great. it's great that your kids like to do baking. My kid likes to Minecraft, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things where you might be like, why can you just have another interest? um, yeah, so I think
Yes.
interested learning is a lot of, yeah, like you said, not controlling those interests.
And yeah, and like validating that their interests are worthy.
Yeah,
Even if their interest is Minecraft or if their
yeah,
interest is, wrestling
yeah,
or, jumping on the trampoline
right.
or
And
yeah.
yeah, and I think um interest-led learning, I think, doesn't mean they get to play Minecraft all day or they do whatever it is all day long necessarily. Some kids really like to dive into things deep,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
some kids like to just learn, dip their toe in.
Yeah.
So, for example, like my daughter several years ago was super interested in Amelia Earhart and Eleanor Roosevelt because of this
Yeah.
book we had, which
Yeah.
is an amazing book, by the way. We still have it, and I love it. Um, I think it's called Amelia and Eleanor Go for a Ride.
Okay.
It is so
Yeah.
good. But we read that book, and she was on this kick with these two amazing women, and my this one looked good, right, on
Yeah, you were
paper.
like, "This is amazing. I am rocking interest-led learning."
Exactly. It's like I am so good at this. And it's so, like I downloaded all the videos and checked out every book, every children's book about these two women, and that was a topic that my daughter wanted to dip her toe in. And so I had all these books, and I had to hold myself back. I had to be so conscious of myself all day long. Like,
Yeah,
stop talking about it, Maren. Like, just get a hold of yourself, because the more I pushed it, the less she wanted to hear about it.
for sure.
So
You almost have to. I mean, it's about being hands off. You almost have to be hands off.
yeah, in
Like,
many ways, unless your child is ready for you to be hands on with it.
or they're asking for help. Like,
Yes.
can you check me out a book about
Yeah.
Amelia Earhart?
Right. And if she would have said, "Mom, can you get me some cardboard so I can make an airplane like Amelia Earhart's?" I'd been like, "I will go to the ends of the earth to get cardboard for you." But she didn't. So, like, I'm not going to push that on her,
Right.
you know.
Well, yeah, you're gonna try not to push that on.
I'm going to try really hard not to push that on her. But when it comes
Yes.
to interest-led learning, that's my tendency, is to like,
Oh yeah,
I see an inch, I'm going to push a mile, and so that can be pretty detrimental. I've
for
learned.
sure. For sure, because what you do then is not only do you like you're sending her a message. You're sending her a message that, okay, yeah, this is a good interest to have. You like Amelia Earhart?
Yeah.
That is amazing. I'm going to validate that by getting you all the books and documentaries.
Yeah, yeah.
But this other interest you have, like watching YouTube or doing Minecraft, yeah, I'm going to try and limit your time doing
Yeah,
that.
right,
That's not as good.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
we're inadvertently sending messages about the kinds of things that they're interested
We're
in.
valuing their interests. You're
Yeah.
so right. And a lot of times, even the interest that you're not super happy about, they're passing anyway. So it doesn't, like, just validate them, and they'll probably pass by you. I mean, think
Yeah.
of all the interests I had, or you had, when you were a child or a teenager or a young adult even.
Oh yeah, for
Oh
sure.
my goodness. Those things don't stick around normally. So that's not really um probably going to happen.
Probably not.
They're probably not going to be cutting boxes the rest of their lives. So just
Yeah.
like let them do it now.
Yeah.
It's their
Yeah.
time. It's their time to do it.
Right. And another thing that I was thinking about for interest-led learning is that, okay, now this is just what I try to do. After you said this wise thing, like, I don't know, a couple months ago when we were voxing, and I've tried to remember it. So the interest-led stuff, the stuff they're really into, should be the stuff that they do most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, most of their day is spent doing that. And then there are some things that they have to do. Like, maybe you really want them to do math, or maybe you want them to practice cursive, or whatever. Those things you try and then fit in around the things that they're interested in.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and those things, I mean, there's a lot of have tos in life. We have to do things. But we shouldn't fill up our whole day with have tos because that's just not a fun life. That's not the quality of life is just not there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I don't want them to think about school or learning as, ugh,
Or their
a bunch
job
of,
or their future job.
yeah, like all these things I have to do and I don't really want to do them.
Yeah, right. Like,
Mostly that's what I'm doing.
yes, I want them to approach life in this way. Like, I want to figure out what I mostly like to do, and and then I can handle the things I don't like to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's counterintuitive to the way, most people approach education in our country. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, we want to train our kids to learn how that feels now,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're used to those feelings, growing up when when they're adults.
So when kids are doing, following their interests, why does that count as homeschool?
I know it's
Why when my child wants to wrestle all day, is
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
does that count?
I know, because most of us are thinking wrestling. No, okay, you can do that in between learning,
Yeah,
right? And that's,
right.
I think, that's our instinct. That's what we think. But when it's interest led, learning happens very very efficiently. And I've said this many
Mm-hmm.
times. I'm sorry. I feel like I broke a record sometimes, but
No.
it's good to hear again. The more you are invested in something, the
Yeah,
more you learn.
right.
The more you care about it, your emotions are tied to it. Um, and if it's something that you're leading, you're planning it, you are invested, you own that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
learning happens.
Yeah. And even with wrestling. For
Yes.
sure with
Yeah.
wrestling because he's learning like what his body can do, how far he can push his body,
Yeah.
how much he has to back off. Whoever he's wrestling with, like is that person stronger than him or weaker than him and how does he need to adjust?
Exactly.
And lots of like emotional and social
Oh my gosh.
um things he's
Skills.
learning.
So many
Skills.
skills.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, he's learning, okay, so I got to stay in this area. I'm going to push till I get this far and then I'm going to stop, or like
Yeah.
these are things we as parents, as adults, don't necessarily even value. But like this, even the spatial skills there
Yeah.
are just, you know,
Or it's not that
learning
we
so
don't
many.
maybe we value it. We just
Yeah.
don't even think
We
about
don't
it.
think it's happening.
Yeah. We don't stop to think all the things that are
Right,
happening
right.
during that time.
Yep. We just think, oh, wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Somebody's going to break an arm. That's what.
Yeah, right.
But I
Right.
think I think that's so great. I mean, even, my son, um, is when my son does that too, I think the same thing. And I also think, he's learning, he's not always into that as much as,
Mhm.
other boys his age sometimes. But he's learning to speak up for himself and say, I got to stop now. Or,
Yeah, for
so it's
sure.
even just that, like having those boundaries and learning
Yes.
okay, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm going to
Yeah.
back away.
That
So,
is so important.
yeah, yeah, it is.
I mean, I want my kids to learn that. I want my kids to
Yes.
know like when to say no.
Yes,
When
exactly.
something's uncomfortable and you say no.
Yep. I-
Yeah.
And those are priceless skills. And I think if we fill our day up with all the have tos, or
Yeah.
it's all coming from the parent or the teacher
Yeah.
down, to the children, and saying, this is what we're doing all day long, and these are the have tos all day long, then where does that voice where does their voice come in there?
Yeah.
um you know and so they're kind of learning, well, okay, I have to do these things. I don't have a voice in this.
Right. Right. So that reminds me of this quote I read. Just happened to. Last night I was reading after I watched Busy Tonight. I couldn't sleep, of
Yes,
course,
I know.
So I had my Kindle and I'm reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, which I'm sure many of you have read, but this is my first time reading it. Really good. And he's not even talking about like homeschool or anything like that, but I came up
Mm-hmm.
across this quote and it blew me away. It says, I was made for the library, not the classroom. The classroom was a jail of other people's interests. The
Oh my
library
gosh.
was open, unending, free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, classroom can mean, like, meaning he's saying it's a jail of other people's interests. Well, that can be, like, my interests on my kids,
Right,
too.
right. It could be your
Uh,
living room. Yeah. Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
be the jail of my interests.
Yep.
Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
really think these, 5 things are important that you do. And your stuff that you're interested in, yeah, we can fit that in, like, when you're taking a break from all the other things that I want you to do.
Sure. It's so
Yeah.
true. Yep. It's so true. And also I think what happens is we think these 5 things maybe are the most important things. A lot of those, a lot of times, the 5 most important things in education are do not include people skills necessarily
Yeah.
or executive functioning skills, like
Mhm.
everyday life,
Yeah.
planning,
Yep.
problem solving, um, those kind of things that like interest-led learning naturally includes those things.
Right.
Very
For sure.
naturally. It just happens. And I think a lot of interest-led learning actually includes a lot of academics too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For example, I have a child who is huge into restaurants right now. So she creates restaurants in our house almost at least once a week. I mean, and so there's a lot of writing that happens, planning a menu, writing it all down, um, copying it, giving it to everybody, and then everybody else reads the menu. And then, there's fake money involved or whatever. And so, like, there's math. And then, so like there's so many things in there that it is academic learning too,
For sure.
for sure. So and so we have to count that. We
Oh my
have to
gosh.
give even though
Yes.
it didn't, we didn't pull out a page in the curriculum and finish that page. The learning did happen. So,
For sure.
yeah.
And it was cemented or solidified or whatever the
Yes.
word is in
Yes.
her brain because it was something she was enjoying doing and
Yeah.
something she was planning versus the next page in the math book.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why that kind of thing has to be in my mind like the main part of the day. And there can be math outside of that
Yeah.
time, but it's just not going to be the kind of math that necessarily sticks with you.
Yeah.
So it can happen. It's just, it can't be relied on as like the thing they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. They're going to
Yeah.
remember the restaurant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's so good.
yeah.
And so hard to
And
do.
so hard to
I
let
struggle
go
with
of.
this.
Yes. Yes.
So hard to let go.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Interest-led learning. Now, in the past, when I've thought of it, or
Mm-hmm.
even recently, I've wondered, um, or I thought, I'm not very good at that because I'm not good at, like, creating projects
Yeah. Yeah.
and things for my kids' interests. Like, I'm not creative enough when my kid is interested in airplanes to design like a whole unit or
Yeah.
study on
Yeah.
airplanes. And is that in your mind interest-led learning, or is that something different?
Yeah. I think that's maybe project based learning,
Okay.
which maybe kind of seems like it's more parent led, because depending on what the project is,
Yeah,
did the child, I don't think you have to be creative at all necessarily if it's interest led learning. The
that's a
child is
relief.
thinking, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a relief. I
Yeah.
mean, because I sometimes see, or I feel, I guess, okay, I feel guilty
Mhm.
when my child is interested in airplanes
Yep.
for not like, oh, we could do a writing project on airplanes, or
Yeah.
we could read books about airplanes, we could watch documentaries about airplanes.
Do
Like,
math about airplanes. Yeah.
I am not capitalizing on their love of airplanes.
Yeah.
I'm letting that opportunity slip by.
Well,
And so I
see,
can tend to feel
yeah,
guilty.
yeah, I know. But that does come back to that. I think some of that might be okay, but like you have to know your limits and where as soon as there's pushback, then that the learning isn't probably going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
And then, were they interested in learning about some aspect of the airplane, or were you interested in that aspect? And so it can get that detailed where it's like, well, I'm not interested in that part of it. So
Yeah.
the learning might not happen. I think, you have to be in tune with how far your kids are willing and able to go in these endeavors.
Right. Right. Because like you might just overdo it and
Mm-hmm.
squash their love of airplanes with your writing projects
Exactly.
and your
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
And the whole point is to foster the love of learning.
And sometimes that just means getting out of the way.
Yeah. A lot of times it does. A lot
Yeah.
of times it does.
And I think because you're getting out of the way and you're like so hands off, you're thinking, well, I must be doing this wrong.
Yeah.
Probably doing this wrong because I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, because we haven't really been taught to kind of trust our children,
Yep.
or really even to trust our own um feelings on how like this is going.
Yeah. Yep.
If it seems a little too easy, then it seems like wrong, or
Right. Right. Right.
it's
Yeah.
if we're not going deep, we're not going super deep into a topic, then it seems like, well, we haven't learned enough yet, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it, but the thing is, like, I thought that, when my son was into World War II, he's not learning everything he needs to learn about World War II. Well,
There's so much.
he's 8, like he can learn about one airplane and, or, we can
Yeah.
read one book and it's just so good for him.
And he'll come back to it later.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Sometime when he's interested again and learn something else.
Especially if I don't push it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's how we do it. That's how I learn about World War II.
Yes. Yes.
I get on a kick, I read a few books, and then I'm
Yep.
off of it for a while, and then
Sure.
I learn something else later.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think this is maybe the trickiest question. How do I even do this interest-led learning? How do we even do this? If I am a parent who's more comfortable doing more structured learning, having curriculum, and that's how I've learned to teach my kids. That's how I function. How can I do this?
Yeah, I think you have to start small.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, always start small. So I don't think this is going to be like, okay, everybody, we're switching things up. We're going to do interest-led learning now.
Yeah,
Put away all the books and whatever. I don't think that's the way to handle it because kids and you and everybody are going to wonder what's going on, and you have to just try it little by little to see how it works for your kids. Your child might want a more traditional schooling experience.
Right.
And that is great too.
Totally.
You might be more comfortable with that.
Yes.
So you have to know yourself and your kids, and so I think just trying a little bit at a time is good.
Yes. Interest-led might even be curriculum for some kids. It might, it might be sitting at a table and doing the traditional things.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would just suggest like that thing that your child wants to do when they're not quote unquote doing school. I would allow that to happen a little bit, even just a little bit. Maybe you start with like 15 minutes or half an hour and put it front and center and call it school.
Yep. And I would say a big part of that is just noticing. What are those things?
Yeah.
Maybe this week, just start thinking about what those things are. What does my kid like to do when when they don't have to do anything? What do they like to do?
Right.
Yep. And then just, try it out. Maybe extend that time a little bit, or, and then notice like what happens when they get to do that more. Is it more peaceful in your house, or are there more connections?
Right.
How did everybody feel after that time?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's so good. And then you can evaluate after that, do we want to do more of that? Did that not work? But I would give it a good try. If you think that this is a path you want to try. I would give it a good try.
And I would say also, interest-led learning does not mean like take away all the rules and it's just free for all. You know, a child might say, I want to do this. I want to do something, you know, and you might be like, well, okay, this is not something we've ever done before. I would only feel comfortable if we have these parameters or something. I do that a lot. Like, okay, you know, like this morning, my children made an airplane in my living room, in our living room. You know, we were on an airplane a couple weeks ago, so it's top of mind. So they, you know, simulated an airplane, and I was like, okay, that's fine. You can't use these things in the cupboard for, you know, airplane snacks. Like, and, you know, you can't use the good glasses or something to serve on the airplane. You know, like, or I don't know. They have to respect your parameters there too.
For sure.
In a way, because I mean that's real life too.
Yeah. Yep. Or you can do this for this amount of time.
You can do this for this amount of time, and then we really need to get this other thing done. And that's important.
Yeah. But I think putting it front and center, putting it in the schedule or naming it just gives it value, and it tells your kids like, yeah, this thing that you're into, this is important.
Yeah.
And I see you, and I want to honor the things that you're really into.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, we often call these things, you know, in between work, brain break, but really, you know, we have to maybe even just in our own mind think about it differently. Like that's actually the brain building part of their day. It could be that could be the thing where they're learning the most. They're learning the most.
Yeah. I don't like the term brain break. I think we should probably ban that term.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Because everything is using your brain. Your brain is working all the time.
Yes. So you're so right.
So your brain's not getting a break, but maybe your brain's working in a different way.
In a different way, yeah. In a different way. I feel like it could be diffusing. It could be a brain diffuser. You know, like
yeah.
But also, it's not just like time off. Like you said, it's not. I mean, your brain is working so much, and I think it's so important for us as the adults in our children's lives, the main adults, is you know, to give them value. Give their brains value. You know, like they are working so hard even when they're jumping on the trampoline or, you know, riding bikes. That is so good. That is so good.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing with this, when you give it a try, I would just suggest it's not something that you add on to the end of your day when you are finished with all your other important stuff. Or it's not something that gets added on at all, like at any part of your day. It's something else is going to have to be given up.
Something has to die.
Something has to die for this new life to form. Something else in your schedule might need to even just temporarily go away.
Sure. Yep. And if you're not I think that's great to say temporarily, because you can always say we're just not going to do math today. Or not, you know, maybe you're not going to just cut out math. You're just going to do it for less time, or it can be pretty minor. It doesn't have to be a huge, like you said, doesn't have to be like a huge lifestyle change.
No, right. It should start small.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of been our family's progression anyway. And so over years of time, you know, I think this is our 8th year of homeschooling. And I think over these 8 years, I've done more and more interest led. I've been more and more okay with it, and more like hands off and not like meddling and trying to control their interests. And that has worked for us. I mean, I feel like I needed that. I needed that time, all those years, to figure this out.
Yeah, and it does help because, you know, my youngest is 7, and I just remember when my oldest was 7 feeling so much anxiety when she was 7, like she's not doing all the things I think she needs to be doing. She, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I had, you know, that's when I had the grandiose plans for a day, and they never panned out. But now I see where she is now, my oldest, and I just I can relax.
For sure.
about my 7-year-old. Like, she's gonna be fine.
When your kids get older, that is when you can relax. You're right. I think that's why I'm more relaxed as a parent with my youngest. Is not because it's just I see my oldest and I see, oh, she's fine.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fine. I can relax.
Yes. And now that I've seen the progression from, even 7 to 11 and how I feel like, she's doing so great, I can see I need to continue that expectation going on even with my oldest. Like, she was fine at 7 when I was worried. She's fine at 11 and I have to stop worrying because she's going to be fine at 16.
Yes.
And
yes.
It's going to be okay.
Yep.
And this is working. This is working.
Yep.
Well,
if you have thoughts on interest-led learning, or I would love to hear them.
Yeah, me too. We'll definitely have to have some discussions in our Facebook group, Unrefined Homeschoolers.
Yep,
find us and join. And also just on Instagram, really Instagram is where we like to be.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, let's move on to LTWs.
All right. Loving this week. Yeah. Angela, what are you loving this week?
Okay, I am loving a new author, and I've read 2 of her books recently. So I'm so glad I found her, Taylor Jenkins Reid. She wrote Daisy Jones and the Six, which I read a month or so ago, and I loved, and I did talk about in our Patreon, one of our Patreon episodes. So our patrons have heard of that. But then that's kind of like a hot book right now that a lot of people are reading, which is why I read it. So I love that so much that I went back and read one of her older books. Well, I don't think it's that old. I think it's like maybe a few years old. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Okay.
And I loved that book so much. Loved it so much. I feel like, now I don't know, these are the only 2 books I've read by Taylor Jenkins Reid. But I feel like her writing style is really different, and I enjoy it. Like Daisy Jones and the Six was it was like, so there's this band, Daisy Jones and the Six, and it was like she was interviewing different members of the band, and it just made up this book, right?
Yep.
The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was similar in that not in that way, but similar in that it was different because it was this reporter who was reporting on Evelyn Hugo, and she was kind of like a Liz Taylor character. That's how I imagined her, like this old Hollywood star who was married many times, and she was doing this story on her, writing her biography. And so we get stories of Evelyn Hugo throughout this like writing of the biography. And I just thought, I loved the book so much because I think we have it just taught me a lot. We have preconceived notions about people, like somebody who's been married 7 or 8 times. Like you might think like, oh, you're bad at being married, or you don't get married.
Haven't learned.
You don't get married for the right reasons, or I don't know. We have these judgments that we make about people. And her story was completely different than what you thought. And so I thought it was just like a good reminder that we never know what really is going on in somebody's life, especially the life of a woman. And so I just thought it was really well done. And now I'm going to find some other books that she's written because I loved both of these. So.
Ooh, I cannot wait. Yeah. I started listening to Daisy Jones and the Six because I know a lot of people suggested, a lot of people have told me specifically to read this book. They're like, music. You're gonna yeah. So I feel like I meant to read this book. But a lot of people suggested doing the audiobook, which it is really cool because there's different voices and it's really cool. The only thing is it's hard for me to follow a novel because I have to pay attention so carefully. So I've had to restart it a few times.
I have to tell you, I started listening to the audio of Daisy Jones and the Six also because so many people said the audio was so good. I also had a hard time following, and I could tell, I know this is a good book. I know it's a good book. Yes. I just need to be able to go back and be like, wait, who is that character again? And I can't really do that with the audiobook. So I stopped and I read it with my eyes because I just couldn't follow the audio. So
okay, I may have to though.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm gonna try it again though.
So Maren, what are you loving this week?
Okay, I am loving it's a short series on Netflix called When They See Us.
Oh yeah.
It is I watched the first one. It's like a movie. There's 4 episodes. It's like a movie each.
Each
and it's
one is
about
like a movie? So it's like an hour and a half long?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They're so you have to invest in them.
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And I mean you could probably chop each one up, but it's, I watched one last night and I couldn't stop watching it. I was up way too late because I thought I would start watching it for 30 minutes and I just couldn't stop. It was gripping. Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody what it's about?
Mainly because so it's a true story about these. It's set in 1989 in New York in Harlem. It's about these 5 black boys who got accused of a crime that they did not do. And so I mean it's it's just very, I mean, I was pulled in right away. The director is Ava DuVernay.
Yeah, right.
Who she's just phenomenal, and I think this is this is gonna be I think, I don't know, I mean I know she's probably had lots of turning points in her career, but I could just feel like what she's doing right here to tell this story is the way she directed this story is mind blowing. It it's gonna change people's view on how we look at black boys in America. I think.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for that. And I've just watched the first episode, and as a mother to kids who are almost that age, these kids were 14, 15, and 16. And it's just heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, it really is. So, and then also to go along with that, I know one of your loving this week's, just a little bit back, was a podcast called The Breakdown.
Yeah, with Shaun King.
And he does a 3-part podcast series and 3 episodes about this case. And he really, I loved how he talked about it. He was saying this is one of the first times a show like this really comes from the angle of the actual families who were affected. Instead of he was talking about movies like I think Amistad and what else? Glory. Some of those really great films about how black people have been treated in the in the past. But it came from the point of view of a white person who changed their mind about how they were treating black people, which is, I think, very valuable in some ways. But this is coming from the point of these families. And it's real. Yeah. It feels real.
Yeah. I, of course, listened to that 3-part episode from Shaun King. So that is on my list. And I'm impressed that you probably just heard this and just started watching right away. So.
Well, actually, the interesting thing is I watched it first. Oh. And then I went back. And then after, of course, I was up. This is at midnight last night. I started Googling the Central Park 5 is what they're calling these. I think Central Park 5, about these 5 kids. And so I started Googling and reading.
Yeah.
And then this morning when I woke up, I was like, ooh, I want to listen to something while I'm making my coffee. And I started listening to The Breakdown, and it was all about it. So I listened to all 3 in a row.
Okay.
So it was a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is definitely something I want to watch right away because I'm interested in that too. So my one question though is, it sounds like it's not a documentary, it's acting.
No, it is. It's
There's actors who are they're recreating the whole thing.
It's a drama.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a real life.
And it's on Netflix.
Yes. The actors are superb. I don't know any of them, except I know one of the moms, Niecy Nash, is one of the moms. But that's the only person I recognize. These people, I hope their career takes off from here. All 5 of these boys. Unbelievable.
Okay, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sounds great. Well,
All right.
thank you everybody for listening. If you are interested in finding us on Instagram and sharing us on Instagram, which we would love, our account is Homeschool Unrefined. We're also on Facebook under that same name, and we have a Facebook group, Unrefined Homeschoolers, which we'd love to have you join. We also have a website, homeschoolunrefined.com, where you can find links and show notes for every episode. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening.
Homeschool Unrefined is created and produced by Maren Gorse and Angela Sizer. Ethan Miller is our editor, and Amanda Ginn is our VP of all the important things.